Okay, so I guess to start off with, run into the MVP, and obviously that was won by Matt Stafford. And one of the things that I was thinking about with the Rams in the offseason was like what Matthew Stafford was going to do. But he did announce he was returning in 2026, and obviously that is the best case scenario for the Rams, and honestly the best case scenario for him. You win the MVP for the first time at 37, so I mean that just shows you can still actually be he could still be getting better, if you can believe it. Obviously, he was the yards leader, his first award at 37. And I think that people talk a lot about Drake May. Drake May was obviously one vote behind, but I think Matt Stafford was the best player for this award, and I agree with it.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with it as well. I think he was definitely the best player all year. And in terms of, you just look at stats, which the NFL MVP should be a stats based award for the most part. And he led the league in passing, led the league in passing touchdowns, got his team to the NFC Championship, nearly got him to another Super Bowl. So I definitely think he's the MVP. I think Drake May made it very close considering, you know, he's Drake May, I think you could argue, is more valuable to his team, but overall, with how the NFL, decides who the MVP is, Matthew Stafford was the right pick, and I think he's very deserving of it.
Yeah, no, totally. Like Drake May definitely had tougher surrounding characters, but I do think that the way the Rams were able to win, they're in the best conference in football, or division in football. They like he was able to win most of those games. He was able to come through, and he's still. I know that it's not necessarily as, but the way he was able to win games is I just think was more impressive than some of the games we've seen Drake May win. You see Drake May when he wins games, like in style. Like he doesn't really win close games in style. I don't think like he's either going to be dominating or he's going to be put on a crutch by his defense. So I mean, just the way Matt Stafford has come through and won some of these games, that's also where I put him a little bit higher than Drake May. But I guess Drake May, yeah, like you said, he's definitely more important to his team just because he doesn't. You have to recognize he doesn't have the Puka Nacua, Devontae Adams thing going for him. But I think that Matt Stafford was better, was statistically better, and just did it with a much harder schedule than Drake May did. So I think it totally makes sense. I think one thing to mention as well alongside that is Trevor Lawrence. Obviously, he was injured in 2024. They only won like 4 games. He hasn't had much success. You're thinking, oh, is he potentially on the way out of Jacksonville? New head coach, and obviously we'll get to Liam Cohen with the Coach of the Year stuff. But I think Trevor Lawrence is also someone to mention with that, just simply being nominated for the MVP after what seemed like to be a big year for him with all the change in the Jaguars organization as well is really big for him and the Jaguars.
Yeah, and I would just add too, like especially, and I know we're going to talk about Liam Cohen later, but really the Jags got kind of the last pick in that coaching cycle hire, and so he obviously was able to transform them really quickly, elevated Trevor Lawrence. BTJ played well, and then they traded for Jacoby Myers midseason, really elevated that team. So really impressive stuff from Trevor Lawrence. A lot of doubters were starting to creep into, is he just going to be a middle of the pack quarterback for the rest of his career? Or can he elevate and take the Jags to potential Super Bowl contention in the next few years? And I think he made a great statement this year and will continue to improve next year.
Yeah, and I think you look at the big money that they gave him, and I think that was part of all the scrutiny he was beginning to be put under from that contract a couple years ago, and just the lack of playoff success. And obviously, yeah, they lost again this year, but I do think that this is the best place the Jaguars have been in his tenure as quarterback, and obviously first-year head coach. So you gotta give props there. But moving on to with Defensive Player of the Year, and now like I know obviously I know your opinion on Myles Garrett, but I think it's really hard to choose someone else than the person who breaks the sack record. I don't really think that you can. Obviously, you can talk about these teams. Like obviously, all these guys on here either were just leaders of great defenses. When you look at Nick Bonito and you look at Will Anderson, especially what Will Anderson's able to do, and only being here for a few seasons. But I just think when Myles Garrett gets the sack record, you can't really give it to someone else.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, as you said, I hate Myles Garrett, but he fully deserved this award this year. and I really can't argue with it. And especially with how valuable he was to the Browns. I mean, the Browns won 5 games this year. If he wasn't on that team, you're possibly looking at a 0-win team. I mean, he had multiple games with 5 sacks, and that's just insane numbers. While I think a lot of these other guys on this list were capable, I just don't think anybody can really make a case that Myles Garrett was not deserving of the Defensive Player of the Year award this year.
Yeah, I mean, just his numbers is like over the past years, like five straight years with at least 14 sacks. I mean, I think he led the league. I know he had 33 tackles for loss, and I think that led the NFL. And I think only J.J. Watt has bettered that number in a season. So, I mean, it's just another historic year, and he seems to be just breaking his own records in a way. So, I think obviously he was most deserving for this. But I will say you gotta think about, like, I will say some of the things that he does say when he talks about, all I want to do is win, and then they give him, like, he basically breaks the bank for the Browns. And I will say that, like, I do agree with you. Like, obviously you have your own thing with the Steelers, but, like, so I will say some of the things he could improve on what he says, but he's no doubt the best defensive player in the NFL. And I mean, he could approach, I wouldn't say GOAT at all, but like for his position, he could get there. Obviously, he's not going to have the team awards with the Browns, especially with how much money they gave him, but he could approach like defensive end GOAT approach it at least by the end of his career if he keeps on that trajectory.
Yeah, and he'll definitely be a Hall of Famer for sure. I mean, I believe this is his second Defensive Player of the Year award. First one, a little bit controversial, but he still got it. And to add to your point about what he says off the field, I mean, he chose to take the money. Like, there was a point last year where everybody thought he was going to get traded, and he chose to take all that money and stay in Cleveland. So when in my opinion, when somebody does that, you can't complain about not winning if you're choosing the money over the ring chase.
Yeah.
And I don't blame anybody for doing that.
Yeah,
But I just don't think you can complain about it.
Yeah, like it's just it's that double-sided coin type thing. Like, yeah, like it's completely like the money. Like, obviously, when you requested that trade, and then the Browns like, oh, we'll give you $40 million as a defensive end. Like, of course you're gonna, or edge rusher, whatever. Of course you're gonna take that money. That's fair. It's completely fair. Anyways, but moving on to Offensive Player of the Year, you had Drake May in there, Christian McCaffrey, Puka Nacua, Bijan Robinson, and JSN. I usually have, and we'll get to a couple of the other people later on, I guess, but I usually have a couple of disagreements with these awards, but generally I kind of agree with them. Now, I would have liked to see Christian McCaffrey win, and I think from watching Bijan Robinson play this season as an NFC South team fan, just watching him play the Panthers a couple times. Obviously, he didn't do I remember the game that we beat them 30-0. Bijan still had 142 rushing yards, if I remember correctly. Just watching him in those two games, watching him play when we need the Falcons to win to make the playoffs. So I watched really 5 full Falcons games this season, and he broke. I think he had more scrimmage yards from scrimmage than Christian McCaffrey did. I think he had the franchise record at over 2,200 yards from scrimmage for the Falcons organization. And then obviously you look at Christian McCaffrey being the most versatile player in the league. Just those two guys, I like to see. It would have been cool to see it go to one of them, but JSN was obviously very deserving. Him just being in his second year, he's the first player to record 75+ yards in 10 straight games to start the season. I mean, and the 1,793 yards on the year, many people thought he was going to get to Calvin Johnson. He ended up not getting to Calvin Johnson, but I mean, him being, he's such a catalyst. Everyone talks about Sam Darnold. Obviously, Sam Darnold has shown, Sam Darnold is integral to that Seahawks team, but just when you have a guy like JSN has become this season, I mean, if JSN's not there for Sam Darnold's not going to be able to do, because the Cooper Kupp is obviously good, but he's aging, and Rashid Shaheed has been he hasn't necessarily, obviously he was mid-season acquisition, he hasn't necessarily lived up so far to what a lot of people might have thought that they were getting out of him. Now he gets time to settle in. He'll be back next year probably. If I believe he has to sign a contract, but regardless, like without a guy like JSN, I don't think that this is possible for Sam Darnold. It might not even be possible for now. The Seahawks could still get here because of how good the defense is, but he's just a game changer, and so I completely agree with him winning.
Yeah, and I mean, I think you look at all the candidates this year, and this is probably one of the most stacked races we've ever had. I mean, Jackson Smith and Jigba, and then also Puka Nacua. Like those are two of one of the best wide receiver seasons we've seen in a long time. Obviously, apart from, I mean, Cooper Kupp had the Triple Crown in 2021, but just two amazing years from those two really made this race interesting. And I have to agree with the pick and JSN winning this. I mean, he like you said, he is absolutely integral to the Seahawks team. They would not be in the Super Bowl without him. And you know, like you said, Rashid Shaheed. He's not too much of an impact at the wide receiver position, not as much as they maybe thought he would be, but he has been a really good kick returner for them. Has taken multiple back to the house. But you know, like we said, Cooper Kupp's aging. He's not anywhere near what he used to be, and JSN's year was just unbelievable. And so I think he's fully deserving of that award. Christian McCaffrey had an amazing year. Bijan, Drake May, you know, Puka, you couldn't go wrong there, but I think they got it right with JSN.
Yeah, for sure. And it's like you should look at Puka. Like I think he had most receptions on the season for anyone. I mean, he like when I watched him drop that ball, that touchdown that would have made it 24-7 against us in the wild card game, and that was like probably the most shocking thing I've ever seen this entire season. Like there was no game that I like him dropping when they cut the camera to him about to catch the ball, there was no Panther like on the screen, and just to see that go straight through his hands was the most surprising thing I think I've ever seen. But for JSN, it's just like his efficiency and just his explosive, like his yards after catch is insane. His explosiveness is insane, and just his playmaking ability is insane. Like just especially the carryover from last year. Obviously, it was completely different. Obviously Sam Darnold wasn't there. You had different guys in Seattle, but it's crazy what he's become. Like just to go from what he was, and everyone thought like, yeah, this guy has top 10 receiver potential, but to be the best one in the league is insane. But yeah, with that, like offensive rookie of the year now, like, and again, it's the best players obviously of the rookie class, but you have an NFC South receiver battle 4 years to come. Emeka Egbuka has emerged as wide receiver one for Tampa Bay, and that role is only going to increase because Chris Godwin and Mike Evans are aging. And then Tet McMillan in Carolina is emerged obviously very easily as the Panthers wide receiver one. Panthers haven't seen a wide receiver that good in many years to play for them. And then two QBs that didn't start the season, but turned into a source of optimism and someone who should become the new running RB1 in New England. So I mean, just like some of these guys, like you go to Egbuka in Tampa Bay, and then you go to Travion Henderson. Obviously, he's been splitting with Ramondre Stevenson and all that, but and we'll get a little bit more into him in a minute as we talk about it. But just these guys, like in Tyler Shuck and Jackson Dart, what they've injected into the amount of, you know, hopium with Giants fans and New Orleans fans just to see a quarterback play that good that they haven't had since their two Hall of Fame quarterbacks. Obviously, Eli didn't get in yet, but he will get in next year. You know, so like it's just fun to see.
Yeah, and just another great class of rookies this year. I think Jackson Dart. I mean, I won't say I'm completely surprised that he was good. I just didn't think he would be this good immediately with the Giants. And, you know, we only had a very small sample size.
No Malik Neighbors either.
Yeah, no Malik Neighbors either. That's big as well. And Shuck, another great year. And I think if he had played more games, this conversation would be different. Abuka had a great start to the season, like you mentioned, but kind of fell off at the end. So, you know, He'll definitely keep getting better and keep progressing, and as you said, be more of a part of that offense. But I don't think he was fully deserving this year. Henderson, great year. I think he was honestly underutilized a little bit. I think Vrabel kind of had something with Ramondre Stevenson, but
Big contract too.
yeah, Travion Henderson really showed his worth and it has proved it on the field. So he'll keep getting more and more touches. But McMillan, I think, is definitely again the deserving player here. I mean, you can attest to this as well. The Panthers would not have won the NFC South or even have been in contention to win that playoff game either if he was not on the team. And really a big addition to that offense, helping Bryce Young take a step up, really just lifted the whole team, in my opinion. And so I think he's very deserving of that award.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, and we have Jalen Coker, who emerged as a wide receiver too, but he didn't play a lot of the games. He was injured a lot of the year. And even when he came back, and it's already been announced by Dave Canales that Jalen Coker is wide receiver too, that it didn't slow down McMillan at all. And, I mean, so like to have a guy offensively like that, especially since we got rid of Christian McCaffrey, we haven't had a guy that explosive offensively. And it's just so big for Bryce Young because obviously Panthers picking up his fifth-year option. He's still the trusted guy. He's taken steps in 2024 and 2025. And just his – like you now trust Bryce Young in big games. You trust Bryce Young better with his decision making. Now there's still stuff to be more consistent on, but like to give him a guy, you just need one more for him. I mean, just anything to build. Obviously, this defense needs work, but anything to build, it's important for Bryce Young, and McMillan was the guy for that. With Travion Henderson, I mean, like if I get Ramondre Stevenson is getting paid $36 million over the next 4 years. It's a similar situation with not necessarily the same because Rico Dowdle was on a 1-year contract, but Panthers gave Chuba Hubbard like $9 million a year. And then you had Rico Dowdle, and you're going to let Rico Dowdle go because you're trusting in the guy that you gave the big contract to. Now it's the same thing right now in New England. Mike Vrabel is trusting Ramondre Stevenson, who the organization gave $36 million to. But the difference is Travion Henderson's a rookie. Travion Henderson has already shown how good he can be. He's a home run running back that they needed. And it will, like, I think you got to consider, I don't know. You got to consider what you're going to do with Ramondre Stevenson, whether it's trade him, whether it's reduce his workload, try to do something about his contract, but probably won't happen because he just got that deal last year. But like obviously Henderson has his efficiency fluctuations, but he's arguably as good already. So it's just interesting what they're going to do with all that money and with Ramondre Stevenson. And for Tyler Shuck, like he started 10 games, he went 5-5, beat Carolina twice, beat Tampa. And just the number one thing for me is obviously he wasn't super high volume at times, but just the decision making that I saw out of him, and like just he seemed like an NFL quarterback. Like you put stats to the side, he just seems like a guy that can be good enough to be here. And just the Saints look so bad, and then he comes in for Spencer Rattler, and you just think like, how did a guy like this lose in camp to Spencer Rattler? And now he's come in, played these 10 games, and just like Jackson Dart's doing for the Giants, he is doing it for the Saints, like thinking like now I bet you there's going to be Saints fans now thinking that like if we put together a decent offseason, we could compete for this NFC South that you really only need maximum 10 wins to get in. Now, you don't know what the Buccaneers are going to do. You don't know what kind of step the Panthers might take, but like recent history shows, you only need about 9 to 10, maybe 11 games to win. So you can have hope there for both of those teams, and especially the Saints. But yeah, no, like you could also be considering Shuck for this. The only reason why I never considered him is because he only played 10 games. Same reason why I never would consider Jackson Dart for this either. But they are two quarterbacks that these two teams have found.
Yep, I mean, I agree with all of that. I think I know I already said this, but if Shuck had played more games, I think potentially a different conversation, but McMillan definitely deserving of this award.
Yeah, certainly. And now you go to Defensive Rookie of the Year, and it's another Cleveland Brown. You got Carson Schwessinger for the. I'm gonna be honest. Like I saw a lot of Eman Worry, who was a second-round pick. People wondered how he ended up there. And you look at the Falcons having a couple guys in here as well. And, like, the Falcons are, again, it's not necessarily what we're talking about, but they're a team that if you're Kevin Stefanski, you got to be really excited with what you already have to work with down there. And it's not just looking at Kirk Cousins or Michael Penix or something like that, and what they have on offense with Bijan and Drake London and with Kyle Pitts as well emerging finally after like 5 years. You look at the defensive side of the ball as well for them, but Schlesinger getting it done at the linebacker position. And, I didn't have really a big horse in this defensive rookie of the year race, but I'm not going to complain or argue. I think you could have debated Eman Worry or James Pierce as well, but I don't like. I think Schlesinger was fair.
Yeah, I agree with the pick on Schlesinger as well, and my team faced him twice this year, and he was a big impact player for the Browns, added to that very elite defense over there. I think overall this race was pretty close, but kind of like you said, for me, like I didn't have a guy that I was really cheering for to win this. I think all of these guys had great seasons. And I think Schlesinger was definitely deserving of the award, but like you said, Emmanuel was very good for the Seahawks as well, and then Xavier Watts for the Falcons. And then even Abdul Carter took a step up at the end of the season as well when he was not looking too great at the beginning of the year, not looking worth that pick. But all these guys got bright futures, but I haven't disagreed with the pick that the NFL made, and I think Carson Schlesinger was the correct choice there.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, So with that as well, you got Coach of the Year, which went to Mike Vrabel, and I was kind of torn between him and Liam Cohen, just because they're two guys. Obviously, went from a 4-win season to what they were able to do. I think the Jaguars were 13-4. Obviously, the Patriots are playing in the Super Bowl on Sunday. So I was kind of torn. I think that there were two people in similar situations. You got a quarterback obviously Drake May needed to prove himself, and then Trevor Lawrence needed to reprove himself coming off an injury and a big contract, and just all that turnover with the Jaguars, and then improving 9 wins and 10 wins. So I was torn, but if it went to Mike Vrabel or Liam Cohen, I would have been pretty satisfied with that selection. And I don't think you can really argue with. Sure, you talk about the schedule being easier, talk about other stuff, whatever. But Drake May's gotten a lot better, and you win 14 games and you're playing in the Super Bowl after winning 3 playoff games. You don't really argue with that after winning 4 games the year before.
Yeah, and I agree with that. I mean, there's been the narrative of the Patriots schedule, like you said, the whole year, and deservingly so, to be honest. But again, just from 4-13 to 14-3 AFC champions. Doesn't matter how you get there. You made the Super Bowl. That's a drastic improvement. And just, the Patriots last year looked lifeless. They looked dead. Drake May didn't look like anything special. And now, he missed out on the MVP by a vote. And that's a lot of credit to Mike Vrabel. He's always, I feel like, overperformed with the group he's had, like in Tennessee, get into the AFC Championship, always competing. Had him at the 1 seed 1 year as well, and that's with Ryan Tannehill, right? So
back in Ryan Tannehill too, kind of.
Yeah. So definitely an upgrade now that he has Drake May, and I think a lot of credit towards him. Very, very impressive coaching job. And then also Liam Cohen, who I believe was the runner-up to great year with there. I think they also went 4-13 last year, and then they turned around to 13-4, won the AFC South for the first time in maybe 3 or 4 years, and then nearly got a playoff win against the Bills, who were great team this year. And so I just think both those coaches just very, very impressive what they did, and I think the future is definitely bright for both of them, maybe more the Patriots than the Jags, but just excellent coaching jobs. And I would still agree with giving the edge to Mike Vrabel, even though they say it's a regular season. These are regular season awards. I think with Coach of the Year, the postseason is also, I feel like, should be taken to account, and winning the AFC, no matter the path, is very impressive and makes him deserving of the award.
Yeah, for sure. And you talk about the the Patriots. I mean, just like you got to talk about. I think Mike Vrabel was the hire. Now, obviously, it's easy to say now with them playing in the Super Bowl in a couple of days, but I always feel like he was given, like you said, he overperformed and performed really well in Tennessee, and I just think like the back end of that tenure is just like I never lost faith in his ability as a coach. Now I didn't know whether he was going to have to drop back to being a coordinator, whether he was going to get another head coaching job. I didn't know where it was going to be, and I will say I didn't expect him to be this good, this fast for the Patriots. But I knew he was still a head coach caliber, guy. So, so I would say that this is. The performance that he's done is unexpected, but the Patriots becoming good with him is not unexpected, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and he was always, you could just tell he was always the guy for that job. Like he was meant to be the Patriots head coach at some point. And obviously played there, won a few Super Bowls there. Well, maybe just one, but at least one Super Bowl there. And so I just think that
you can kind of assume if you're on a Patriots team in the 21st century for a few years, you probably won a Super Bowl.
Yeah, right. And so now you kind of got the new day version of Brady and Belichick in New England, it seems.
Yep. Yeah, and that was interesting the whole Tom Brady thing with obviously we can sit here and speculate what he meant by not picking a side for the Super Bowl, but it had some backlash from guys like I think Vince Wilfork was in on it a little bit, calling Tom Brady some names that we won't say on a family-friendly show, but it was interesting. I'm not going to make any speculation, but that was pretty interesting that he wasn't pro New England, whether that's a legacy spotlight taking thing from Tom Brady to Drake May, but you never know. But what he's done, I mean, is immense. And like you talk about Patriots fans or whatever, it's like this 5 years is not. You can get over it. You're back already, and you're still going to be back next year. You're going to be back the year after. You're going to be back the year after that probably because Drake May's really good. Mike Vrabel's really good, and they're able to do it with only I'd say one really good wide receiver. I wouldn't say makeshift offensive line, but a relatively mid one, and you really got that defense to lean on. Obviously, of course, a Mike Vrabel defense is going to be good. So. Yeah, this Patriots team is still they're going to continue to be good, and they definitely have done a good job over the last few years figuring it out, moving on from Bill Belichick and all that type of stuff. So, but with that, I guess you also have we can talk about comeback player of the year, but this was the most obvious award of all. Like you think comeback player of the year, it's going to be Christian McCaffrey. I think getting over the injuries, he's just able to do it every single time. You think about all the injuries he had. He had a couple in Carolina, really one season-ending injury, but he missed games at points at other times, and now he's missed a decent, not enough to say, not like a organization-altering amount of time, but he missed a significant amount of time. If not, I don't know exactly how much he missed last year, but he missed a lot to become eligible for comeback player of the year. And I mean, it's crazy how he's not. He still gets better. He gets injured, like. This probably was multiple. He's had 3 like long-term injuries, and he gets better from it somehow. He's never regressed. He's never gotten worse. And I will say I miss him in Carolina still, but I mean it's just ridiculous how he's able to come back and still improve every single year, despite the things. And it's the most obvious choice. If he goes down with the season injury, like obviously we don't want that to happen, but like if he were to get hurt for long term in 2026, he's probably going to win 2027 comeback player of the year. I mean,
yeah, and I agree. I mean, I think every year kind of the narrative with Christian McCaffrey is he'll be great if he stays healthy, and this year he really was able to, and he performed. I mean, I know this doesn't really matter for the NFL, but like in terms of fantasy football, he was the number 1 player overall. He's just amazing. Like he's amazing to watch. He's super fun. I'm sure you do miss him in Carolina for sure. But definitely, I mean, I think there were a lot of quality candidates for comeback player of the year, but McCaffrey, staying healthy the whole year and then having the season he had, also in contention for offensive player of the year, definitely deserved this award. And so, I mean, really, I don't think the NFL missed this time around, which is pretty rare in my opinion.
Yeah, like I mean, obviously there was a lot of moving parts to that deal. But like if we and just the spot organization was in at the time of the trade, like we, it's interesting because we wouldn't have been able to get Bryce Young if we didn't trade Christian McCaffrey because we needed those picks to trade. Like that second round pick we got from San Francisco. But we've made a lot of poor decisions in the past, but I will say it's just I just don't. I miss him a lot, but people will say like, "Oh, do you regret the trade?" I don't regret the trade. I regret losing Christian McCaffrey because the place we were in, it kind of made sense, and we wouldn't have our quarterback, and just the place we were in 2022, firing Matt Rule and all that. So it's like people talk about, "Oh, it's one of the worst trades and whatever," but no, it's just unfortunate the time period and the timing of it, but. Obviously he's thriving in San Francisco, and I'm really happy for him for that. And yeah, so with that, that's the NFL awards for 2020. Well, do you call it 2025? I guess 2025, 2026 season.
2025.
Yeah. Yeah, but I mean, this is really the first time I think I've honestly fully agreed. There's no one where it's like, oh, this person should have gotten this, or this was a skeptical. Now there's awards where I wanted someone to win that didn't, or like it was 50-50 for me, but I didn't disagree really much at all anywhere.
Yeah, I mean, I think the NFL did a great job, and I think
Crazy to say.
Their credibility back in terms of those decisions.
Well,
So,
you had Roger Goodell say today that the refs are doing an immensely good job, so it can all go backwards.
right? Yeah, that's true. For sure.
I will die on the Panthers Buccaneers Week 18 game. So
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. Trying to make it entertaining, which it did.
Which it did, and made me watch an extra NFL game with the same amount of stress as if I was a Falcons fan. But anyways, yeah, that'll conclude the NFL awards.